Sometimes the loudest "I miss you" is the one that never gets sent. Last night, while you were trying to convince yourself you're finally over them, someone was lying awake, staring at their ceiling, wishing they could hear your voice, just once. Not because they suddenly became a better person, not because they finally understand your worth, but because your voice is the only place their chaos ever felt calm. Hey folks, imagine this. You're a radio station. For the longest time, they used to tune into your frequency whenever they were bored, lonely, or restless. Your words were the music in the background of their life, so familiar, so comforting, they assumed you'd always be there. Then one day, they go to tune in again, and all they hear is static. That's your silence. That's your power. Last night, they were scrolling through their phone like someone flipping through old channels. Nothing felt right. Nothing sounded like home. Every chat felt shallow. Every notification felt empty. Then your name popped into their mind like a song they hadn't heard in ages. My friends, their ego didn't want to admit it, but their heart whispered it clearly. I miss their voice. We're told a big lie about silence. We're told that if someone doesn't call, doesn't text, doesn't watch our stories, it means they don't care. If they wanted to, they would, right? Sometimes that's true. But here's the twist nobody talks about. Some people want to, but their pride is sitting on their hands. Their ego would rather swallow nails than send, "Hey, can we talk?" So what happens? They don't reach out. They just sit there, playing brave, while losing a fight with their own thoughts. On the outside, I'm fine. On the inside, why does it feel so weird without them? It's like they walked out of the warmest room in the house, and now they're pretending they're not cold. There's a quote I love. Pride is the mask we wear when we're afraid to admit we care. That's what was happening last night. They weren't replaying the arguments, they were replaying your laugh. The way you said their name, the way your hello made even the worst day feel a little less heavy. But here's where it gets real. They didn't deserve unlimited access to that anymore. At some point, you stopped performing CPR on a connection that kept flatlining. You stopped picking up every time they remembered you existed. You stopped being the emotional bandage on their self-inflicted wounds. That's not cruelty. That's growth. Think of your voice like a warm coffee shop. For a long time they walked in, sat down, made a mess, and walked out. No thank you, no respect, just assuming it would always be open. Now the sign on the door has changed. It doesn't say, "Closed forever." It simply says, "This space now serves people who appreciate it." And yes, there is a little bit of fun in knowing that while you're over here rebuilding your peace, they were probably hovering over your name last night like it was a self-destruct button. Type, delete. Type, delete. Hey, backspace. I miss, backspace. That's not your burden anymore. That's their lesson. You are not the background music to someone else's ego. You are the main story of your own life. The fact that they wanted you back last night just to hear your voice doesn't mean you're supposed to go back. It means your presence was powerful. It means your energy was rare. It means your silence is finally being heard. So as we go deeper into this journey together, remember this truth. You don't need their call to prove your value. You are already enough, with or without their confession. Type this in the comments so you don't forget it. My peace comes first. Write it down, my friends. Press like, hit subscribe, stay with me, because what's coming next will help you never lower your voice for someone who only hears you when you're gone. Number 1. The exact moment their ego reached for your name. Regret doesn't knock on the door, my friends. It slips in through the same silence they thought would keep them safe. Last night, there was a moment they will never post about, never tell their friends, never admit even to themselves fully. It didn't look dramatic from the outside, no tears on the floor, no cinematic breakdown. It happened quietly, in between one distraction and the next, when their mind finally ran out of places to hide. That's when it happened, the exact moment their ego reached for your name. Picture this, folks. Their life is like a TV with 100 channels, noise everywhere. They flip through social media, group chats, random videos. Maybe someone new they're trying to feel something with. Everything looks fun, everything looks busy, but nothing sticks. The sound is up, but the room still feels empty. Then suddenly, like a song they didn't expect, your memory comes on, your laugh, your hey, your voice saying their name in that way, only you did. And just like that, all the channels go quiet. It's just you and them in their mind again. And here's where their panic starts. They thought they were over you. They told themselves the story. It wasn't that deep. I can replace them. I needed to move on. They walked away like they'd just changed outfits. No big deal, but silence is not an outfit. Silence is a mirror. And when everything else slows down, that mirror shows them the one thing their ego didn't prepare for, the truth that they miss you more than they ever planned to. You know those moments when you suddenly remember a smell and it pulls you back to an entire chapter of your life? That's what your voice does for them. It's not just sound, it's a door. A door back to late-night conversations, inside jokes, the way you could tell something was wrong from just one word, the way your "what's going on" made them feel more understood than 1,000 likes ever could. So there they are, staring at their phone, asking themselves questions they used to throw onto you. Why am I thinking about them right now? Why do I suddenly feel sad? Why do I want to hear their voices when I'm the one who left? And behind those questions is a fear they don't say out loud. What if I was wrong about them? What if I lost something I can't replace? We're sold a very simple lie in today's world, that the one who walked away is always fine, that the one who looks busy is always happy, that the one who posts more must be winning. But as someone once said, not all smiles are joy, some are just armor. Their armor is their performance. Your silence is the truth. They believed they could walk away and still keep the emotional access, that you'd always answer, that you'd always be there, just one message away, ready to give them comfort on demand. They thought they were the sun and you were the planet. They didn't count on you learning to orbit your own life. They didn't count on losing the very thing they assumed would never leave, your presence. Last night, when your name came to their mind, it wasn't casual, it was a crack in the story they told themselves about how right it was to treat you as an option. They remembered the time they were stressed, and you stayed up just to listen. They remembered how your voice sounded different when you were worried about them. They remembered feeling safe for a moment in a world that constantly feels like it's falling apart. And they realized that no matter how many people they text now, no one sounds like you. But instead of admitting that, they tried to negotiate with their own ego. I don't miss them, I just miss having someone. I don't need them, I just want to talk for a minute. I'm just curious how they're doing. These are the costumes pride puts on when it's scared of being exposed. Because if they say, even in their own mind, I miss their voice, they also have to accept the next truth. I didn't treat that voice well when I had it. And my friends, that's a heavy truth to face at 1 a.m. in a silent room. That's why their finger hovers over your chat but doesn't press send. That's why they type something basic like, hey, and then delete it. It's not just shyness, it's guilt. It's the fear that if they reach out, they might discover the thing they never believed would happen. You're no longer available to be their emotional airbag. You might be sitting there thinking, if they thought of me, why didn't they just call? That's a fair question, but remember this. People who have spent their whole life avoiding real feelings don't know how to walk straight into honesty. They know how to flirt. They know how to play games. They know how to distract. But to say, "I miss your voice and I'm realizing I lost something real," that takes a level of humility their ego hasn't trained for. Another quote for you. Some people don't come back because they don't care. Others don't come back because the truth of what they did is too heavy to walk through. Last night, that weight sat on their chest. The weight of knowing they had someone rare and treated it like it was nothing. And you, my friend, were not sitting there begging the universe for them anymore. That's what stung the most. Why is it so hard for them to admit this to themselves? Because it would break the image they've been selling to others and to themselves. The image of someone who made the right decision, who needed space, who is happier now. To acknowledge that they miss your voice is to admit that their choices cost them something valuable, and ego always wants to win, even if it means losing what matters. But here's where the story flips in your favor. The very fact that their ego reached for your name means your energy left an imprint they can't erase. It means your presence was not replaceable background noise. It meant something. You meant something. Your caring, your patience, your support, they all sunk deeper than their behavior ever showed you. And you know what? You don't need to be there to watch them learn that. You don't need that midnight call. You don't need that weak, "Hey, stranger." You don't need to step back into a story where you already know the ending. What you need now is to see the truth clearly. You were never forgettable. You were never the extra. You were the main character in a chapter they keep rereading in their mind, even if they'll never say it out loud. So let this sink in. The moment their ego reached for your name was not your invitation to go back. It was your confirmation that walking away, staying silent, choosing peace wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. You did not lose value when they left. They lost access when you healed. If this hits something inside you, I want you to prove something to yourself, to them, to the world watching your silent glow up. Go to the comments and write this affirmation. I am not their late-night option. Say it for yourself. Show it to yourself. Show it to the world around you. And stay with me, because what happens after this moment, the part where they try to handle that realization, is a whole different story. Number 2, what they felt versus what they performed. Some people don't heal, my friends. They just learn how to act like nothing hurts. Last night, while they were laughing in a group chat or posting another "I'm doing great" selfie, their feelings and their performance were at war with each other. On one side, the show, the confident face, the busy schedule, the "I've moved on" energy. On the other side, the truth, a quiet ache that kept circling back to you, especially when the noise died down. What they felt and what they showed couldn't be more opposite. Imagine their life like a stage play. Front row, center lights, they're the star of their own "I'm unbothered" show. They've got the jokes ready, the posts curated, the replies lined up to look smooth and detached. But behind the curtain, backstage, it's a very different story. Back there, they're pacing. They're replaying your last conversation, the way you used to listen when they vented, the way your voice softened when you knew they weren't okay, even before they said it. The crowd sees the performance. Only the silence sees the truth. They tell themselves, "I'm fine. I chose this. I had to move on." But if they were so fine, why did your name feel like a knot in their chest when it popped into their mind out of nowhere? Why did their stomach drop for a second when they saw something that reminded them of you? Why did they open your chat just to look and then sit there staring at messages they pretended didn't matter? That's not indifference. That's conflict. That's the ego trying to keep up with a story the heart no longer believes. We're told to look at the outside. They're going out, they're smiling, they're posting, they must be happy. But like someone wearing a winter coat in summer, their behavior doesn't fit the temperature of their true emotions. On the inside, they felt that tug, the one that whispers, "You lost something real." On the outside, they kept the armor polished. They posted the right songs, the right captions, the right pictures, all to send one message: I don't miss them. But here's the lie they try to live in, that if they act confident long enough, the regret will magically disappear. The truth is, pretending doesn't erase emotion, it just delays it. As one quote says, "You can't outrun what lives inside you. It will walk at the same speed as your shadow." Last night, their shadow sat with them. They scrolled, they laughed. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, your memory sat down next to them and refused to leave. They might have thought, "Why do I care? I'm the one who walked away. I'm the one who said we were done. I'm the one who said it's better like this." But that's exactly why it bothers them so much. Because if they were so sure, why is their mind still reaching back? Why does hearing a voice that sounds like yours in a cafe make them look up for a second too long? Why does your favorite song, the one they said they were tired of, suddenly sting when it comes on the radio? Their ego is busy doing damage control. You don't miss them. You just miss attention. You don't miss them. You're just lonely. You don't miss them. It's just nostalgia. But think about it, my friends. If it was just loneliness, anyone's voice would do. If it was just attention, any conversation would feel satisfying. Yet last night, it wasn't anyone they wanted to hear. It was you, your tone, your way of saying, "What's going on?" when something felt off. Your way of bringing calm when they were all over the place. That's not just missing someone, that's missing you. Still, instead of owning that, they double down on the performance. They might even post something extra loud just to prove to themselves they're okay. A silly reel, a story from a night out, a caption that screams, "I'm better now." But it's like putting glitter on a cracked mirror. It might shine for a second, but the breaks are still there. The silence after the distraction ends is where their truth lives. Last night, when everything got quiet, their thoughts turned on them. They remembered the times they brushed you off when you needed them, the messages they left on read, the moments you tried to talk and they decided your feelings were too much. And then they remembered how you still showed up for them anyway, how your voice still held space for them even when they didn't deserve it. That's not a comfortable replay for someone who built their identity on believing they were always right. Why is it so hard for them to step out of the performance and return as a real, honest human? Because it would mean saying, "I was wrong." And for some people, that sentence feels heavier than any heartbreak. Admitting they miss you means admitting they misjudged you. Admitting they want to hear your voice means admitting they silenced the one person who actually cared. That's a level of accountability they've never trained their ego for. But here's the part you need to see clearly, my friends. Their performance doesn't mean your impact was small. In fact, the more they try to act like they're untouched, the more you know something is touching them deep down. No one spends this much energy acting unbothered unless something inside them is very much bothered. Their show is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of how terrified they are to face the truth. You, on the other hand, don't have to live like that. You don't have to perform healing. You can actually heal. You can admit you were hurt and still move forward. You can admit you cared and still choose peace. You can feel everything and still decide, "I deserve better." That's real strength. That's real stoicism. Not pretending you're made of stone, but refusing to let your emotions drag you back into a story that keeps breaking you. So while they stay stuck between what they feel and what they perform, you get to choose something different. You get to step fully into your truth without hiding. Yes, you loved. Yes, you hurt. And yes, you are still worthy of something so much better than someone who's only brave when they're acting. Let them keep their stage. You're building a life that doesn't need an audience to be real. If this opens your eyes even a little, go to the comments and write this affirmation. My truth is stronger than their act. Write it for yourself. Show it to yourself. Show it to the world around you. And stay with me, because what happens when they realize the performance isn't working anymore? That's where the real shift begins. Number 3. Why they wanted your voice, not just your presence. Some people don't miss you, my friends. They miss the way you made their chaos feel less loud. Last night, they weren't lying there craving a deep, mature conversation about what went wrong. They weren't suddenly ready to sit down with honesty, accountability, and growth. That's the fantasy we create in our minds. The reality is often much simpler and a little more painful to accept. They didn't just want you back. They wanted your voice back. Not your boundaries, not your standards, not the full version of you that now demands respect. Just the sound of you, the comfort, the softness, the familiarity that wrapped around their anxiety like a blanket they didn't appreciate when they had it. Think of your voice like a lighthouse. For a long time, they were out at sea, sailing through their own storms, and whether they admitted it or not, your voice was the light they used to navigate. Every time they felt lost, they'd call or text, and you would show up, calm, patient, present. You'd listen to the same stories, the same fears, the same drama, and somehow you always knew how to translate their chaos into something that made sense. They didn't always thank you for it. They didn't always reciprocate, but they kept coming back for that light. When they walked away, they told themselves they didn't need it. I'm fine on my own. I can handle it. I don't need anyone. It sounded strong in their head. It sounded powerful to their ego. But here's the thing about lighthouses. You only realize how much you relied on them when the sea gets dark. Last night was one of those dark nights. The thoughts were loud. The distractions didn't work. The usual validation felt thin. The people around them didn't understand them the way you did, because they never took the time to. And in that moment of internal noise, their mind reached for the sound that always brought them back to center, your voice. They didn't want the responsibility of rebuilding what they broke. They wanted the relief of hearing you say, it's going to be okay, even if they were the ones who made it not okay. They didn't suddenly become someone who knows how to treat you right. They just remembered how it felt when you were the safe place they could land on after treating you like an option. That's not love. That's emotional dependence. That's craving the symptom relief without addressing the disease. There's a quote that fits perfectly here. Be careful, my friends. Some people don't want to fix the wound. They just want you to stop the bleeding for them. Your voice used to stop the bleeding. When they were stressed, when they were insecure, when they felt rejected or small, you were the one they reached for, directly or indirectly. Sometimes it was an obvious call. Sometimes it was a random meme. Sometimes it was a late, "You up?" message pretending to be casual, but underneath it was the same pattern. I'm not okay, and I want your energy to make me feel better. Why your voice and not just your presence? Because your voice is the most efficient access point to your heart. They could hear your tone and know whether you were open, gentle, worried, loving. They could hear your breath and feel your attention. They could hear the way you made space for them even when you were tired. They didn't need to see your face to feel your care. Your voice alone carried all of it. That's why last night, in their mind, they didn't picture an argument. They pictured a phone call. Just you saying hello and them feeling that drop in their chest that says, I'm not alone. But they weren't thinking about the cost of that comfort on your side. They weren't thinking about the times you stayed up late, even when you had responsibilities the next morning. They weren't thinking about the emotional exhaustion of carrying their fears while they gave you confusion in return. They weren't thinking about how many times you poured into them while running on empty yourself. The ego is selfish like that. It remembers how something made it feel, not how it treated that source in return. You might find yourself wondering, if they wanted my voice, doesn't that mean they still care? It's a fair question, and it comes from a good heart. But caring and being ready are two very different things. A person can miss you deeply and still not be ready to do right by you. They can long for your voice and still not deserve to hear it. They can ache for the comfort you gave and still have no intention of offering you that same level of emotional safety. Why do they think like this? Because for a long time, the world has taught people that emotional support is infinite, that there will always be someone willing to pick up the call, that the good one will always be there, no matter how many times they're neglected. You broke that pattern. With your silence, you quietly said, I am not an unlimited resource. I am a human being with limits too. And yes, it's hard for them to accept that. It's hard for them to face the reality that the person they took for granted is no longer on standby. It's hard for them to realize that last night, wanting to hear your voice didn't mean they were entitled to it. The difficulty they feel now is the bill for all those times they cashed in on your kindness without depositing respect. Here's the part that should empower you instead of breaking you. The reason they wanted your voice so badly is because it was healing in a way they can't replace. They can talk to new people, they can flirt with a dozen faces, they can laugh loudly in public, but they can't duplicate what your energy did for them. That calm, that grounding, that feeling of being understood at a level deeper than their image, that doesn't show up every day. So last night, when they lay there wishing they could hear you again, what they were really feeling was evidence. Evidence that you weren't ordinary, evidence that you weren't just someone, evidence that they lost a safe place they didn't know how to honor. And while that realization was setting in for them, you were somewhere building a quieter, stronger version of yourself, one that doesn't hand out that kind of access so easily anymore. You are allowed to protect your voice now. You are allowed to decide who gets to hear that softness, that encouragement, that warmth. You are allowed to say, my voice is for people who show up, not just for people who show up when they're lonely. That's not being cold, that's being wise. If this hit home, I want you to write something powerful in the comments, not just for me, but for you and for whoever needs to see it. My voice is not their bandage. Type it out. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you understand the value of your own energy. And stay with me, because next, we're going to talk about what your silence is really doing to their ego, even when they're pretending not to feel it. Number 4. Your silence turned into a mirror they can't escape. Silence doesn't ignore them, my friends. It just lets them hear themselves for the first time. Last night, while you were minding your own business, maybe scrolling, maybe already in bed, your silence was doing something powerful on the other side. You didn't send a message, you didn't react to their story, you didn't throw a quote their way hoping they'd get it. You did nothing, and somehow that nothing spoke louder to them than all the times you explained yourself, begged to be understood, or tried to fix what they were busy breaking. For a long time, they thought silence was a weapon they could use. You know what I mean, folks. The slow replies, the disappearing acts, the sudden distance when you needed closeness most. They believed that pulling away gave them power, that ignoring you made them look strong. They thought if they went quiet, you'd get louder, you'd over-explain, you'd chase. You'd prove your worth over and over just to get a crumb of their attention back. But then something shifted. You stopped chasing. You stopped filling the space with essays and apologies that didn't belong to you. You stopped trying to convince someone who already decided not to see your value. That's the moment your silence stopped being a reaction and became a boundary. And here's the part they never expected. That same silence they once used so casually turned into a mirror they now cannot escape. Imagine them standing in front of a glass they didn't know was reflective. At first, they thought they were just looking out at the world, at other people, other options, other distractions. But slowly the angle changes, and instead of seeing you begging, they see themselves avoiding. Instead of seeing you too emotional, they see themselves emotionally unavailable. Instead of seeing you as too much, they start to realize how little they actually gave. That's what your silence reflects back. Not drama, not payback, just reality. Last night, when they picked up their phone and saw no new messages from you, something they never say out loud slipped through their mind. Wow, they really stopped. That thought lands heavy, because for a long time, your effort was their safety net. They knew deep down that even if they pulled away, you'd be there to catch the fall. So they walked recklessly. They played reckless with your heart. Now the net is gone, and the ground under their ego is suddenly very real. Your silence shows them the pattern they didn't want to admit. Who always initiated? Who always tried to fix things after arguments? Who apologized first, even when they weren't fully wrong? Who sat there explaining feelings to someone who sat there protecting an image? When you remove your energy from that equation, the imbalance becomes impossible to deny. They can't hide behind, "we both messed up," forever. The mirror of your silence says, "No, look again. See who really showed up and who really disappeared." That's why they feel uneasy in the quiet, my friends. It's not just that they miss you, it's that they finally have to sit with who they were with you. There's a quote that says, "Silence is where excuses go to die." All the lines they used to comfort themselves, they were overreacting. It wasn't that serious. They'll get over it. Don't hit the same when you're not there proving them right. When you stop reaching out, their favorite story about being the strong one starts to crack. And yes, it's difficult for them. It's difficult to look into that mirror and see not the hero of the story, but the person who ran from real love because it required effort. It's hard for them to see how many times you chose understanding while they chose avoidance. It's hard to see that silence isn't punishing them. It's just finally not protecting them from themselves. Why do they think this way? Because ego always wants a shield. It wants someone else to blame, someone else to react, someone else to carry the emotional weight. When you were explaining, pleading, asking, "Why are you treating me like this?" their ego could hide behind your reaction. "See? They're dramatic. See? They care more than me, so I'm in control." But when you pull your energy back and offer nothing but stillness, there's nowhere left to hide. All that's left is them, their choices, and the emptiness they created. Your silence is not coldness, it's clarity. It says, "I saw what happened, I felt what it did to me, and now I am choosing not to relive it." It shows them that access to your heart is not an unlimited pass. It shows them that their behavior has consequences, even if you don't scream about them. It shows them that the version of you who used to tolerate the bare minimum has evolved into someone who doesn't argue with disrespect. They just leave. Meanwhile, as they sit there wrestling with that mirror, they start to notice things that never bothered them before. Their jokes don't hit the same in other chats. Those shallow conversations leave them feeling more drained than entertained. The comfort they thought they'd find in moving on feels thin, stretched, fake. That's not an accident. That's the comparison happening in their own mind, whether they admit it or not. Your silence doesn't just show them who they were with you. It shows them how empty everything else feels in comparison. But here's the beauty of it all, my friends. You don't have to see this process for it to be real. You don't need screenshots of their drafts. You don't need late-night confessions. You don't need a teary apology to validate what you already know inside. The mirror isn't for you, it's for them. Your work is not to stand there holding it up. Your work is to walk forward, carrying the lessons, not the burden. So while your silence is confronting them, it's also protecting you. It protects your peace from half-hearted check-ins. It protects your heart from someone who only returns when their loneliness peaks. It protects your future from being dragged back into cycles you've already outgrown. That's the real power here. The mirror that wakes them up is the same wall that shields you. If this resonates with you, I want you to anchor it in your mind and in the comments. Type this affirmation: "My silence protects my peace." Write it for yourself. Show them without naming them. Show yourself the standard you're holding. Show the world around you what it looks like when someone stops begging to be seen and starts living like they already are. And stay with me, because next we're going to step into the part they'll never admit, the messages they type, delete, and the conversations they only have with you in their head. Number 5. The messages they typed, deleted, and never sent. Sometimes the most honest "I miss you" is written in a text that never gets sent, my friends. Last night, while your phone sat there in perfect silence, it wasn't as quiet on their side as you think. Your notifications didn't light up. No new message appeared with their name on it. No "Hey stranger," no "You up," no "Can we talk?" And your mind might have whispered, "See, they really don't care." But what you didn't see was the private war going on between their fingertips and their pride. The messages they typed, deleted, rewrote, and erased back into nothing. Imagine them sitting there, late at night, phone in hand, the room a little too quiet, their thoughts a little too loud. They open your chat. It's still there. The old conversations, the emojis, the voice notes, the last words you shared. For a few seconds, they just scroll. They read your old messages, the ones where you checked in on them, where you said, "Let me know when you get home," where you believed in them more than they believed in themselves. And as they scroll, that tight feeling in their chest returns. So they start typing, "Hey," just 3 letters, simple, safe, non-committal. Then their ego jumps in. That looks desperate. Backspace, gone. They try again. "I was just thinking about you." Too honest. Delete. "How have you been?" Too obvious. Delete. "I miss," and they stop on the M. That one feels dangerous. That one feels like stepping out with no armor. Backspace, backspace, backspace. The chat goes back to being empty. Your phone stays dark. But don't get it twisted, folks. That emptiness was full of everything they were too afraid to say. There's a quote that says, "Pride doesn't protect the heart. It just stops the healing." That's exactly what played out last night. Their heart wanted to reach for you. Their chest wanted the relief of hearing your voice, of knowing you'd respond like you always did, with warmth, with presence, with understanding. But their pride wanted to stay in control. Pride said, "If you message, you're weak. If you call, you've lost." So instead of choosing truth, they chose silence, with a screen full of unsent words as the evidence. You might be asking yourself, if they felt all that, why didn't they just send it? Why not hit call? Why not be real for once? And the answer is painful but simple, my friends. They're more afraid of vulnerability than they are of losing you. To send that message would mean admitting they care. It would mean acknowledging that walking away didn't make them as strong as they pretended. It would mean saying, "I made a mistake." And for some people, that level of honesty feels heavier than any heartbreak. So instead, they live in this half space. They let the words live only in their drafts and in their mind. They replay conversations with you that never actually happen. In their head, they practice what they'd say if you picked up. "Hey, I know it's been a while. I've been thinking a lot. I'm sorry for how I treated you." They rehearse it like a script over and over, but never bring it to the stage. The fear of how you might respond, or not respond at all, scares them more than the emptiness they're already sitting in. Here's the part you don't see. When they don't send the message, their ego feels relieved for a moment. "Good, I stayed in control. I didn't look weak." But their heart feels the opposite. It sinks a little more, because deep down, they know they wanted to reach out. They know they wanted to hear your name again, your voice again, your energy again. And they also know they stopped themselves, not you, not life, them. Why do they think like this? Because they've been trained to see emotions as a battlefield where the one who cares less wins. They think reaching out means losing power. They think apologizing means surrender. They think saying, "I miss you," makes them small. No one taught them that real strength is saying the thing that scares you. No one taught them that taking responsibility is what actually makes you grow. So they stay stuck in this strange prison, wanting you, but refusing to step through the door that leads back to honest connection. Meanwhile, you're on the other side of that same silence, trying to make sense of it, wondering if they ever think about you, wondering if their life is just perfectly fine without you, wondering if you were the only one who felt anything real. That's the heavy lie loneliness tries to sell you. That because they're not saying it, they're not feeling it. But as we've already seen, silence doesn't always mean nothing. Sometimes it means too much. Now here's where the power comes back to you. Whether they send that message or not, whether they dial your number or keep staring at it, your worth doesn't move. You are not valuable only if they confess their regret. You do not become more or less special based on whether they finally hit send. Their hesitation is not a reflection of your importance. It's a reflection of their courage level, or lack of it. You are allowed to stop waiting for texts that live and die in somebody else's drafts. You are allowed to stop imagining their apology and start focusing on your own healing. You are allowed to say, "If you cannot be brave enough to be real with me, you don't belong in my future." That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. And yes, there's a strange satisfaction in knowing that while they were stuck in that loop, typing, deleting, doubting, you were moving forward. You might have been reading, resting, laughing with someone, or simply breathing in peace they never helped you build. Last night, their fingers were busy fighting with their ego. Last night, your soul was slowly learning that peace doesn't come from someone finally choosing you. It comes from you choosing yourself. If this section pulled something real out of you, I want you to mark it, right now, in the comments. Type this affirmation. I won't wait for unsent words. Write it for yourself. Show them without naming them. Show yourself how far you've come. Show the world around you what it looks like when someone refuses to put their life on hold for a message that may never arrive. And stay with me, because next, we're stepping into the most powerful part of this story. What happens to you when you fully step into the version of yourself their old access can no longer reach. Number 6. Meanwhile, you became someone. Their old access no longer fits. While they were busy assuming you'd always be there, my friends, you were quietly becoming someone they no longer know how to reach. Last night, when they were lying there wrestling with whether or not to text you, they were remembering the version of you they used to have, the one who answered fast, the one who stayed up late, the one who accepted half effort and still gave full love. What they're not ready to face is that while they were playing indecisive with your heart, you were changing. You weren't just waiting on the other side of the silence like a paused movie. You were evolving. Imagine this. For the longest time, you were like an open-door cafe. Lights always on. Warm, welcoming, familiar. They could walk in at any time. No reservation, no respect, no effort. They'd sit at the same table, order comfort, spill their feelings, complain about life, and then leave when they felt better. No tip, no gratitude, no consideration for how much it cost you to stay open like that. They thought it was just who you were. "They're always there for me," they told themselves, not realizing those doors weren't automatic. You were the one unlocking them over and over again. But something shifted. Pain has a way of becoming a teacher, and it started whispering truths to you. You began to notice the pattern. How you felt drained after every interaction. How you were the one initiating, checking in, apologizing first. How you kept lowering your boundaries while they kept lowering their effort. At first, you made excuses for them. They're just busy. They're going through a lot. It's my job to understand. Until one day, you realized something important. No one was making excuses for you. While they assumed you were stuck on the same emotional level, you started moving. Slowly, quietly, but you moved. You started pulling your energy back. You started listening less to their potential and more to their patterns. You started seeing the difference between being needed and being valued. That's when your silence wasn't just about them anymore. It became about you, about what you deserve, about the kind of peace you want, about the version of yourself you're tired of abandoning just to keep someone else comfortable. Last night, when their ego reached for your name, they weren't reaching for this upgraded you. They were reaching for the old you, the one who would have picked up instantly, the one who would have been flattered they thought of you, the one who would have turned that late-night call into a free therapy session. That version of you was soft, beautiful, but unprotected. And the truth is, my friends, you outgrew that. You learned that your heart doesn't belong in everybody's hands, especially not in the hands of someone who only comes close when they're lonely. Why did you have to change? Because staying the same was costing you too much. The lies you were taught: if you care, you never give up. If you're a good person, you always answer. If you walk away, you're cold. Started to break. You began to see that loyalty doesn't mean letting people step on you. Love doesn't mean abandoning yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean offering unlimited access to someone who keeps misusing it. You realized that constantly being available to the wrong person means being unavailable to the right things in your life, your peace, your growth, your future. Think of your old self as a house with no gate. Anyone could walk in with their muddy shoes, peek in every room, leave their mess, and disappear. Now, after everything you've been through, you've built a gate, you've put up a bell. Not everyone gets a key, not everyone gets to come in, put their feet up, and drain your energy. And the people who knew you before the gate existed feel that difference more than anyone. They feel it as distance, as you changed. But the truth is, you didn't become colder, you became careful. Last night, while they were hovering over your name, wondering if they should reach out, they had no idea how different the room on the other side has become. They still think a simple "hey" is enough to get front-row access to your heart. What they don't realize is that your standards moved, your spirit got stronger, your nervous system started healing. You no longer see their inconsistency as passion, you see it as emotional immaturity. You no longer see their mixed signals as mystery. You see them as a warning. And yes, it's difficult, for you and for them. It's hard for you to accept that someone you once cared for deeply no longer fits into your life the way they used to. It's hard to admit that the person whose attention you once craved is now someone whose presence would disturb your peace. It's hard to honor your growth when part of you still remembers how badly you used to want them. But that's what healing does. It changes what you're willing to settle for. It's hard for them too, but in a different way. It's hard for them to realize that the version of you who tolerated their bare minimum has been replaced by a version who requires effort, respect, and emotional honesty. It's hard for them to feel the shift from "they always answer" to "maybe they won't." It's hard to process that while they were busy trying to win the game, you quietly stopped playing. There's a line that fits here. They thought you'd be waiting at the same place they left you. They didn't expect you to outgrow the whole street. That's what happened. They're trying to knock on an old door in a city you no longer live in, confused why no one answers. They think your silence is stubbornness. They don't see it's actually evolution. So while they are stuck in the loop of almost texting, almost calling, almost facing their truth, you are building. You are discovering what makes you feel alive besides fixing other people. You're returning to hobbies, goals, friendships, and parts of yourself that existed long before they came along. You're learning that peace is not boring, it's sacred. You're realizing that your time, your heart, your presence, they are not leftovers, they are a privilege. If this resonates with you, I want you to claim this out loud and in the comments, not just as words, but as a decision. I've outgrown their access. Write it. Show them without saying their name. Show yourself how far you've come. Show the world around you that you refuse to shrink back into the version of you that hurt just to keep someone else comfortable. And stay with me, because next we're going to get into what happens when they finally do reach out just to hear your voice, and how your new strength changes everything about that moment. Number 7. When they finally reach out just to hear your voice. Not every hey is innocent, my friends. Sometimes it's just a test to see if they still own a piece of you. There comes a moment in this whole story where the silence on their side cracks. It usually doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't arrive with a full apology or a long, honest paragraph owning everything they did. No, it slips in through something small, deliberately casual, carefully controlled. A simple "hey", a "how have you been", a random reaction to your story, a song they send for no reason. On the surface, it looks harmless. Underneath, it's loaded. Last night, or maybe it will be next week, they will finally press send on the message they kept typing and erasing. And folks, understand this clearly. They're not just reaching out because they're curious about your life. They're reaching out because your silence did something they didn't plan for. It removed their sense of control. They don't just miss you, they miss knowing they can still get to you. They miss the version of you who would light up, respond fast, and pour warmth into a conversation they treated like a temporary distraction. Think of their message like a fishing line. They throw it out lightly. Been a while. Saw this and thought of you. Hope you're good. They're not showing their whole hand. They're not saying, "I miss your voice and I regret losing you." They're checking something much simpler. Do I still have access? Are you still emotionally available to me? Will you still give me that comforting energy on demand? This is not always conscious, but it's real. In that moment, they're less interested in your actual answer than they are in what your reaction reveals about you. In the past, this is where you might have rushed in. Your heart would jump, your stomach would flip, your mind would race with hope. Maybe they changed. Maybe they finally get it. Maybe this is the moment everything turns around. You'd respond with softness, with vulnerability, with too much honesty for someone giving you so little clarity. You'd let the sound of their attention overpower the memory of your own pain. But not this time. Because this time, you're different. This time, your silence has taught you to slow down, to breathe, to ask yourself questions before you answer theirs. What do they really want right now? Are they coming with consistency or just curiosity? Are they offering understanding or just reaching for comfort? Are they trying to rebuild what they broke, or are they just bored, lonely, or hungry for validation? There's a quote that fits this moment perfectly. You are not obligated to reopen doors you closed to save your sanity. Their message doesn't magically erase the nights you spent overthinking. It doesn't erase the times they dismissed your feelings. It doesn't erase the way their inconsistency trained your nervous system to live in a constant state of anxiety. A hey isn't healing. A hey isn't growth. It's just a sound. What gives it meaning now is what you choose to do with it. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be cold. Stoicism isn't about pretending you feel nothing when you actually do. It's about refusing to let those feelings drive the car. Maybe you choose to respond, but calmly, slowly, with your boundaries intact. Maybe you choose not to respond at all because you know exactly where that road leads and you've already walked it barefoot. What matters is that this time you are not operating from fear. Fear of losing them, fear of being alone, fear of missing your chance. You're operating from clarity. They will feel that difference in your energy. They'll notice that you're not rushing to keep the conversation alive. They'll notice your answers are lighter, more neutral, not dripping with unspoken desperation. They'll notice you're not asking what they've been up to with that old hidden hope in your voice. And that will confuse them, because the version of you they remember would have jumped. The version of you they remember would have heard their message and felt rescued. The version of you they remember would have given them a full emotional meal in exchange for a crumb. Now, instead of being their emotional lifeline, you're just you, grounded, calm, not chasing, not auditioning. And for someone whose ego has been fed by your past reactions, that calm is unsettling. It's like walking back into a room they used to control and realizing the furniture has been rearranged. Their old emotional tricks don't work the same. Their bait doesn't land the same. Their casual tone doesn't pull your heart forward like it used to. This is where it gets hard, my friends, because a part of you will still remember how much you once wanted exactly this: contact, attention, a sign. That part of you may want to romanticize this moment. They messaged me. Maybe this means everything. But another part of you, the wiser part, knows better now. It knows that the real test isn't whether they come back. It's how they come back. It's whether their actions finally match the words you wanted to hear. It's whether they respect your boundaries, not just your voice. And if they're only here for the sound of you, for that hit of comfort, for that old emotional supply, you have a choice you didn't fully have before. You don't have to give it. You can decide that your voice is no longer available to soothe the same ego that once shattered your peace. You can decide that support must be mutual. You can decide that access must now be earned, not assumed. That is your power now. So if they finally reach out just to hear your voice, remember this: their regret is not your responsibility. Their confusion is not your job to fix. Their loneliness is not your emergency. You can care and still protect yourself. You can have history and still say, that chapter is closed. You can feel the old emotions stir and still choose a new reaction. That's what growth looks like. Not feeling nothing, but choosing differently, even while feeling everything. If this spoke to you, if you can feel that you're not the same person they walked away from, I want you to grab this moment and stamp it in the comments. Type this affirmation: My peace is not their playground. Write it to show them, without names. Write it to show yourself. Write it so the world around you knows you're done giving out free access to your soul. And if this message helped you see your situation more clearly, do one more thing for me and for the people who need to hear this next. Hit the like button, share this video with someone you love, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss what we're building here together. Stay with me, my friends. Your story doesn't end with their return. It begins with your rebirth.